front seat, and I was just thinking, there's something that I remember telling my daughter. There was this program in her school, and she was all getting ready to go, and then after that she was scared. She said, "Mama, what happens if there's nobody comes for my performance?" So I said that don't worry, the empty seats are filled with angels. So I'm sure there are a lot of empty seats here, and there are angels filled here, and the ones who have come are the humans who have braved everything and come here. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm just going to take a little time of yours. I know all of you are hungry. Your tummy is growling already, all set to have lunch served already. So I'll just quickly try and take you all and give you some nuggets for the time that you all are going to spend with me. In this session, what I've done is that I'm going to focus on two takeaways, okay? And one is going to be very theoretical, which I was just contemplating that I shouldn't take right now because I'm sure there has been a information exhaustion that must have come over y'all. But I still want to brave and take that up, hoping that if you are able to come to know the essence of it, you all will do the self-learning on your own. Okay? So today I'm going to talk about the human capital management. We all know, we spoke about the VUCA world, we spoke about the VUCA D world, and of course there were some questions that came in. What is it that I'm going to do, or what's happening around the environment? Earlier, the entire business environment was hitting the front-facing founders or the business leaders. Now what has happened is that this has got cascaded, and every person in the organization is getting to be a part of it or be affected by it. And what's happening is that entire dynamics are changing. We are actually almost in the fourth revolution, wherein psychological barriers are just falling. There is digital. Right now, as someone said that I'm going into WhatsApp detoxification mode because there's so much of information influx that's coming in. We really don't know. So today, if I'm saying this theory is right, tomorrow there will be 350 people who will say this theory is wrong. One. Second is the consumerism which was there amongst only the people in the front has actually reached to everyone. The generation that we're trying to look at has been giving feedback, taking feedback, and has been having an opinion probably right from the day they said, I want this. So in an organization, we have an entire outflux of business environment that's completely changing. And when you open the door, you have an entire influx of millennials who are walking in, who have a completely different mindset. And within the organization, you probably have baby boomers and you have other leaders who are there to probably make it working. How? And that's where the opportunity is. One of the things that I would like to share is that if you don't want to be obsolete, then you should have a need. When do businesses fail? When there is no need. When will any individual, for that matter, even in operations, even in software, professionals, everywhere, they have been this change that has been happening. But what has happened is that they have been very agile and moved into a new role, upskilled themselves and moved where there is a need. We all remember the Y2K? Where everybody was getting into the bandwagon. Did it last? Is it existing even today? No. But people have moved on. That means where there is a need, that's where you need to find where you get aligned to. If you do that, whether there is AI or whether there is business transformation, there is automation or anything going around, you will always hold an essence. So, looking at the human capital, what is it? What are the forces that are changing the business landscape? Lots of forces are there. We are moving away from brick and mortar to actually the virtual world. yes, digital transformation has, I would say it's a transformation, not a disruption, because what is happening is opportunity is just coming to your doorstep. Everything is on your mobile. You are becoming a virtual, you're becoming a virtual and a global employee. Everything is there. So we are no longer going into the entire pipeline structure. In fact, of late, in one part of the world where we say that, okay, there is this entire logistics that's coming up because of online business. In the other front, when you're actually looking at businesses, the logistics is actually breaking down. So where something is growing, something is falling. And we have various skills that are required. As I said, the gig economy is coming in, and now people have the entire experience inflow happening. This entire landscape is changing. And what's happening is, because of this changing landscape, because of the reduction in business opportunities, because people are asking for more with less, there's a huge challenge coming to business houses. And because of this huge challenge coming, they need to open up new businesses. You look at your own mobile. Your mobile features have changed. Your mobile life cycle has changed. Now, if the product that you're holding has a life cycle of, say, 1 year, 1.5 years, even though we don't feel, but I guess after some time even we start feeling that, okay, naya mobile lena chahiye. If the product life cycle of one of the instrument that you're holding in your hand is getting shortened, that means your upskilling or your people, your human capital needs to get upskilled at the reverse level. So you're no longer talking about 30, 60, 90. The time period is reducing. And that's the fight that the HR is facing. Okay, there is a challenge, but again I said, there is a need and there is an opportunity for us. Then how is it that I actually start aligning to what's required with the industry? The thing that I said is that we need to find our operating rhythm. Every industry that you are working in is in a different life cycle. For example, just a couple of years back, I was in an organization which was going into completely different banking sector. The transformations were very different. But today I am in a healthcare industry where we are no longer talking about actually medical transcription. We are actually talking about doctors comprehending the entire chart note for US doctors. But suddenly, these doctors will need to upskill themselves because AI is coming. The skilled job for which these people have actually stopped their consultancy, they have given up on their practice and joined the corporate world, is changing because AI has come in. But because AI has come in, what we say in the HR world, we say the cookie cutters, right? The mundane jobs are going away. But we are moving to the next level. Next level and next level. The thing is that as humans, and I think a lot of our speakers spoke about that, it is all about insight. What is the insight that you can give? And the insight is always embedded in your years of experience. And that insight is what leads to a decision making. So, when you're trying to look at your organization, there are a lot of challenges that you have to face, a lot of alignment that you need to do, and there are various ways, and every organization will try and do it differently. For example, some organization might pick up an onboarding experience because we all know the cumulative effect that comes in when you have a resource which is not highly paid, but you're investing in their skill and they stay along with you for a longer time period. And that entire onboarding experience can multiply the number of years that he's spending in your organization. So it could be an onboarding experience It could be a personal learning experience. That is, you tell that, okay, you be the CEO of your own organization. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that these are all initiatives that we take. There was an era where you were taking, we were doing policies, we were doing standardization, we were looking at recruitment. We have reached a level of maturity over there. And now we need to do is, we need to get our initiatives, get everything, the same structures. For example, let's take one-on-one meeting. Now we know that there is an issue of retention. It is the one-on-one meeting which is getting cascaded and brought in back in a different way, which is aligned to your organization. So the challenges that your organization is facing needs to be broken up into small units, and you need to find your operating rhythm. Okay? Scientifically, if I were to say, if this is a room, every object in this place has a frequency. And how will I be able to prove it? The moment I put in music, you will realize those music has the frequencies. When these frequencies start moving, they start rising and moving again. That's when we start talking about resonance. This is something that we have learned in school days, right? And all that we know is that when we reach to a frequency, when two elements reach to the same frequency, they will have maximum amplitude, right? And that's when the output is the most. When you're looking at HR, the entire HR fraternity has to come together to move in one operating frequency. The recruitment team has to handshake with the operations. The operations has to handshake with the talent. The talent has to handshake with L&D. The L&D has to handshake with the culture head. The culture head has to handshake with the talent management. The talent management has to handshake with probably the global CEO or HR head. With me? Every unit needs to come together. So we as HR fraternity need to come close-knit, and every initiative that probably the talent manager is trying to do, we should jump in and give in our best. Handshake together, and that's when we get our operating rhythm. Now, to find your operating rhythm, I have tried to find 4 things that are very, very crucial. One is, you should know your business. Every HR person should know how he or she is trying to impact the business. When I am saying business, we should be able to talk in terms of what the operation people speak about. If they are talking in terms of productivity, they are talking in terms of turnaround time, they are talking in terms of operation frequency, they are talking in terms of cost, they are talking in terms, whatever is their rhythm of conversation, we should be picking up the same thing. So the first and the foremost leap that we need to take is, we should know our business. The moment we know our business, we actually step into a founder's mentality. We realize the implications of whatever we are doing to the strategic decisions. When is it that we feel that we are going to become a cookie cutter? When we are lost in transactional jobs. When we are lost in transactional jobs, there is somebody who can come and pick it up. But if we are able to move a little differently and move at a strategic level, it is going to be completely different. Today, when we are talking about high performance and engagement, we are no longer talking about review meetings, we are no longer talking about appraisal, because every 6 months, and this is a common question, I am not clear about my KRAs. And every manager has to go through that struggle, because somewhere in his mind, he also knows that there is so much of complexity happening, so many changes happening. We have a project that is in transition, but we are not sure whether the project is going to come to us or no. And we have planned for a workforce management which might happen or might not happen. And we are always constantly being the face of it. If we have to give appraisals, the way of dialogues have to change. There are a lot of organizations that are slightly moving away, and they have embedded the high performance again, as I said, the millennials who are coming in want to also give feedback. They are very keen at giving feedback. So if you have 4 review questions or you review performance things that you want to talk to them, dare to ask them what is your feedback about me. Yes, so but an awareness of that will help us to understand how is it actually we are able to fine tune our activities so that we are able to get the best out of each one of them. So we need to have high performance through engagement. And engagement it could be then linked to aspirational track. For example, when I was saying, initially the reviews and appraisals were taken care of by the talent management team. It was their target to ensure that all the appraisals are taken by this day, all the reports are done, and then you have a bell curve, and then you have another meeting in 4 and 5 and 6 things. But along with them, the learning and development team need to handshake by deciding what is the continual learning aspiration track that he can provide, that can be given. Then it is no longer a review process, it is actually an engagement process. There is a paradigm shift. Probably the actions are the same, but because you need to keep the entire organization moving in the highest amplitude, you have to ensure that the engagement is also happening, but there is a review, there is a performance, there is an evaluation happening. If probably the L&D team is saying that let's go on and launch a new program which is based on say one-on-one meeting or say mentoring, we should all step in and say yes, we are together. We have, so not every, and the entire training model is also, the training framework also needs to change. No longer we are able to have only the L&D team or the HR team giving it. There has to be a handshake between the delivery heads and we working together so that we are able to actually create functional leaders. So the output of a high performance and engagement is to create functional leaders who know their business and actually they have the soft skills, they have the cognitive skills, they also have the knowledge and they have the right attitude. So it's a complete building of a functional leader. The third is agility in HR. Now what's happening is no longer the HR as a team is leading people, or we are not creating leaders who will lead their team, because the leadership has broken down, and even if you have a hierarchical structure, the decision making is flat. Everyone in your team is actually becoming a leader. The walls are breaking down. And probably that's the reason why we are taken aback when we do not have strong communications happening, because the decision has already been taken by someone. So when we are talking about agility, we have to move into a transformation leadership. When we are saying transformation leadership, it has to, the entire vision needs to break down into every individual, and every individual should be able to see the same mission and the same vision that probably the CEO and the founders have put it across. And that's where the HR plays a very, very important role. So we need agility in HR and automation. Automation is going to happen. And we shouldn't be in any ways, in any meeting, trying to obstruct that. That's a business need. Like as I said, people, the customers want more for less. If you were to look at the same mobile phone in your pocket, you will know how much you are ready to negotiate that price, but you want more features. You want everything. You are demanding all of that. So at some place, we know what is the equation between a customer and a service provider. The same thing is growing up in a larger magnitude for an industry. So when I am saying automation, embrace automation. That's the best way to get into the bandwagon. When computers came in, I'm sure we should go and check with those seniors who said, no, I will not accept it. This is not how I want it. What must to them and their careers. The best thing is to embrace change. Whenever there is an automation initiative in your organization, you all should be the first, for that matter even, and I've seen it works. The best way to tell your operation leaders, I care for you, is by actually start initiating automation process. Start showing some cost-effective solutions that you're doing. Automation to ensure that the baselining is done well and you are able to do insightful work. I have been in meetings where there are millennials who say, you know, we can give a best onboarding experience. Let's capture the entire onboarding experience. And I have had seniors who will say, we do that. We have survey forms. We do quarterly survey forms. We have feedbacks that come. We do actions on that, based on that. We don't need that. And I have observed the same girl leaving the organization, going into another organization, transforming all the process, and she comes up as a young leader, gets awarded in that organization, and moves to, she actually jumps 2 layers up, and she's taken it in as a leader and given the entire transformation project into her hands, a young girl. So there has to be a change that happens. Very often in my interactions, so we are actually running a program wherein we realize that we need to create a lot of leaders, and there is no one, we cannot have one leader addressing to 15, it has to go at a cascading level. So we have created an entire rhythm wherein we are saying that okay, we will train you and then you will go ahead and train. Along with that, there are some policies, there are some expectations which are then given to the business leaders saying that okay, apart from just training, we were able to create a change in some of your deliverables. So when this is happening, I often go and meet them. And some of the things, one question that somebody asked me was, how do I keep my team engaged? Because what they talk is not something that I understand, and what I understand, they're not ready to listen. And I'm trying to network. I have taken them out. So the meetings, one-on-one meetings, the chai pe charchas, the lunch, the small team meetings, the everything, the birthday parties, everything. They've tried everything, but nothing is working. And when I spoke to the others on the other side, the participants, they said, we do not see him as a leader. So the paradigm shift has to change. I went back to them and I said, okay, you are doing all these activities. Tell me how different are you from the people who are actually employed or working along with you, apart from the number of years? Where have you invested in yourself? And it was very surprising that the people who were complaining that the team members were not listening to them was because they had never invested, and unknowingly they were feeling insecure. So in that insecurity, they were doing these activities, but they were actually seen by the people around as activities. So the thing is that we need not look down or try and groom these people. We need to look up, build ourselves, bring ourselves up so that we are able to guide them. For example, career aspiration. How will we guide them for career aspirations if we have not set our own goals? How can we talk to them about goal setting if we do not have a set of goals? Or we have not done that process. So that there is a paradigm shift, and I think that's what we need to know. So AI is here. People analytics is here. And it's a golden opportunity for you not to get bogged down because you don't understand technology, but jump into it and give insights. This is a double diamond design framework that I thought I should discuss with all of you all. It's design thinking, it's very simple. But this framework can scale up at a large and a small magnitude. So if you want to do an organizational level change, achieve. Find out your opportunity statement. This is what we say ROI in simple words. When you are defining it, you will need to have some measuring metrics for it. And fortunately, because again of the digital world, we have so many metrics that are freely flowing. We don't even have to walk into any training or buy a book. After that, you need to develop, you deliver the solution and you make it happen. This is a very simple framework, but given any problem, if you follow this, it will work. And the magnitude of it will be depending on the stakeholders whom you are involving in this. So if it's an org level, the senior leaders and the senior managers will be there in the process. If you are doing it for a small team, that team leader and his team, small young team, will be the collaborators. We discover, we define. So when the entire discovery is happening, we are lost. We define and we come to a point. Then from there, for example, if I was just to talk about training content, the business has changed. New role has come up. What do I do? Or I have to create an entire aspirational track for the people who have joined it. And they are very different. 3 years or 4 years down the line, the capability I had with my people is very different from the people who have just recently joined. So what do I do? Get into the discover phase, where I would actually involve all the leaders. I would come up with my competencies that I already had, do a little bit of my homework, but get all probably the managers in a room and say, okay, this is the competencies that we see. Now you tell us, are we on the right track? I'm sure based on the business dynamics, on the team dynamics and the client expectations, they will have some changes that will happen. That is your defined stage. Then you will come up with a problem statement and then you develop content, and with the usual cycle you ensure that it is reviewed and you have. So when you're developing it, actually you're creating a functional content and then you deliver it and you reach to a solution. So whatever has been already done, we need to manage the change, the incremental change. So instead of doing away with all that you have done, start with this double diamond design framework. This double design framework will help you in incremental changes that you can make to your existing initiatives, programs or anything, or you can start right from scratch. Okay, so this is one design framework which I thought will be very useful and it can be used. The other thing that I realized is that, as I said, leadership is not about, now no longer is there a leader leading people or leading teams. Okay, in fact, it's like he's orchestrating the entire process. One person is a project manager, the other person becomes the leader, somebody is doing work allocation management, and the leadership keeps changing. Because the leadership is now defined by the front-end decisions that people are making. So when this small framework which I realized is very good, because you might need to read it. I will not be able to take the entire thing, but it's readily available. It has 21 descriptors, just like you have your you have your inventory based assessments. You have questions in which you can either ask meets, rarely meets, often, and so on. There is this assessment. I'll come to this. So it is based on individualistic as well as group oriented behavior, because even if one group of people come together and they do not perform or refuse to cooperate, I'm not sure whether your project will take off. That's the power that has come because the decision making has come down. Okay, so we will need to ensure the individuals are aligned to the group. We have what is the accepting and opposing authority, because right now we're talking different dynamics. We will probably have a millennial there, and we will have a baby boomer there, and they are the ones who are actually making the decision and having a dialogue with each other. So we should know where is this authority and how is it that accepting, how much of a balance is happening in that particular cohesive group. And the third is values of dominance and submissiveness. So that actually covers the culture aspect. Because even if you have a cohesive team, even if you have everything working, if you do not have a culture, I think that's the power of culture today. It was not as powerful earlier as much as it is today. There is a huge amount of power index that is hidden, and that's the reason why we talk about culture, culture fitment, and if you see the culture bit is coming up in every slice of the HR work. So we need to find out, okay, what is about the culture fit. So there is unfriendly behavior, there is a group oriented behavior, accepting authority, opposing authority, and the submissiveness decided by, because that's what the culture bit is all about. So this is one framework which actually is very much fitting into today's agility or today's context. And after you finish, so what happens is there is a questionnaire that is given. So what is it that you wish? So these are the questions that are asked. What kind of values do you wish? Because at the end of it, even if we say we do not agree to a person, we will realize if we go to the ground level, it is because we do not agree to the core values of that person. So what kind of values do you wish to show in your own behavior? So there is this entire blind spot that can come up. So we have that question asked with the same 26 descriptors, very well defined. Then you ask, if there is a most effective member, what is his behavior? And you list down based on the most effective member. And the third plotting that you do is that which is the behavior which is futuristic. In the given context, for example, there is an individual who is, and this helps to handle dynamism. If suppose you have a person, today he has all the, he's holding the entire core knowledge about the entire project and he is able to do it, he might be the most effective member. Okay? But he is not the future leader, because after some time the engagement quotient of the entire team will go down. And that's when you decide, okay, no, for the future, I would want a person who is able to be less autocratic. So the entire question, and it's available, talks about it. And this is how the fitment is done. It's ready, you can just read through it, have a look at it. I'm not asking you all to employ it, but the only thing that I wanted to share with all of you all is that the way now that you are thinking about problem solving, when HR is thinking about problem solving, we need to understand that the context has changed, the definitions have slightly changed, and naturally as an outcome, our initiatives, our work, our way of assessing people will also need to change. The pattern will be the same. How are you going to actually understand the skill? You will have to do a skill mapping, you will need to do the assessment, you will need to understand what are the business requirements that are coming in, we need to do the alignment, then we will need to look whether it is in-house, what should be done, all of that. So the processes are pretty standard. But what is missing is the ability for us to change. There's this one gentleman who shared, I think you said, that no longer we need to look for smart goals. We need to look for fast, where F actually speaks about frequency. Because the goals are changing. The goals probably that you have set today, because of the business condition, because of the one merger and acquisition, everything changes. So now from smart, we are moving to frequent. From 30, 60, 90, we are asking ourselves, the delivery heads are saying, when can you make it faster? रिक्रूटमेंट आज मैंने डाला है, मुझे कल आदमी चाहिए. One, because on the top there is a dearth of talent, and the number of projects that the business leaders are not able to take is only and only because they do not have the right skilled people with them. Businesses are there, money is there, but they're just worried about the skilled people within the team. Also, if, for example, in the organization we all have retention and retention issues, we all have our own initiatives, but we just need to know how to manage it with the dynamics of time. So the entire thought process that I have tried to take you all through is, if we want to be relevant, the change has to begin inside out. We need to walk into the room where the monster is. We are not very good at statistics, or we've not been thinking too much about metrics. Let's walk into it. At the end of it, we are all in it together. There is no append, we don't have an economics scholar or nothing. So we are all in it together. So let's get into the classroom and let's attack the monster one. Second, let's understand business. Because the moment you understand business, you will know the need where you can best fit in. Third is, start working on capability building, not by discussions, or design, rather I would say as science. Today, the way we are using OD as a science, I don't think we really had the opportunity basically to use the entire OD as science within our organization. So let's look at the entire piece as science, look at it based on principles, and depending upon our organization, depending upon the people we have, depending upon the demographic we have, depending upon the resources we have, depending upon what stage of maturity your industry or your company is, let's find our own operating rhythm. I hope this session was able to help you and give a different mindset and perspective. Thank you so much.
A very interesting article a couple of days back. So there is a gentleman, I forget the name, who posted on LinkedIn that to be able to sing a song, you just need to practice some vocal muscles, and if you can master that, you can be a male version or a female version of Lata Mangeshwar any day. So having said that, whether it is VUCA, whether it is training, whether it is whatever it is, you need to nourish your soul and body. Let's go out and have food. Napoleon said, in the army, to march on your stomach. If the stomach is empty, you can't battle. So let's be prepared for a VUCA world by having nutrition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'm available.
Better result and achieving their goals.
Very good question. That, like for example, in our organization, what had happened is that an entire layer. So what happened is that there were some retention issues. So one problem led to another and another, and there were a couple of the entire volume of people who had tried it was very high. That's the time when the organization looked into people analytics, and they found out that the problem is not about dissatisfaction and all of that. The core problem is actually grounding to attrition. So because one person leaves the team, the deliveries are the same. So then this problem becomes somebody else's problem, and he's double loaded. And then he starts, so the entire problem explodes. If you want to have engagement initiatives, it has to be across the organization. And one of the things that research has said that works right now is not necessarily money, but very much value-based and the learning track. If you are able to give these two elements to the organization back, they'll be very happy. And one of the ways of doing it is as one of the programs that I had run long time back was Manager as a Catalyst. So we had picked up 5 elements, business problems that were there. The L&D team had worked, created activities on it, and we created a very neat booklet on it. It was like a train the trainer. But what we did is, we did not go and train them. As a part of the appraisal cycle, based on their potential, these people were nominated for this program. And when these people, so there is one level of engagement happening there. These people got nominated, they underwent training, and within 3 months, we were able to cover 6,000 people. Because they went and cascaded it, and again, they had to give deliverables, and this was then presented to their own senior leaders. Then their senior leaders presented it to the management. So, a small element of just a training initiative led to an engagement of the entire organization. And then of course we had a convocation and all of that. So it's just about redefining it. Engagement, if it is made with people, because at the end of it they never go and ask their leaders, they always ask their friends. We come from the school of thought that if we had doubts, we used to go and ask the teacher. But these people always have peer and they have collaboration. So that means this is the best time for us to have champions, sponsors, those frameworks, those kind of frameworks for any initiatives. That way you will be able to, it's like it's a self-running engine. I hope I was able to answer your question.
So food, VUCA, prepare for a VUCA world by having food. Any more questions? No questions? Food is a question.
Please have lunch.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to India's first corporate news channel. We invite interviews, articles, press releases from your organization. Visit our portal www.indianconventions.com. Thank you.